everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to another book chat, and this time it is January's book chat, and we got a nice stack of books that we have read. So I'm going to go through those books, tell you my thoughts, and we'll see if you guys have ever read any of these. So to start January off, we have An Ordinary Violence, and this book is by Adriana Chartrand. And I absolutely do not like this book. I don't know. So, okay, here's kind of the back. Terrible things happen side by side with the ordinary. Dawn hasn't spoken to her brother, Cody, since he went to prison for a violent crime 7 years ago. But when Dawn's seemingly perfect life in the big city implodes, she's forced to return to her childhood home and the prairie city that still holds so much pain for her and her fractured family. Cody is released from prison with a mysterious new friend by his side, and Dawn must follow increasingly sinister leads to uncover their nefarious plans to access the dangerous supernatural network. As the lines between right and wrong blur and dissolve, Dawn reckons with trauma and violence, loss and reclamation in an unsettling world where spirit realms entwine with the living, and where it is humans who carry out the truly monstrous acts. Here's why I don't like this book. It's not very long. It's literally like 200 and something pages. It's a quick read, but you never figure out what is going on. So it's almost like things, you were just reading things that were happening day to day, but nothing ever, like, even when the whole spirit realm supernatural thing actually happens, you have no clue what they're trying to do. You have no clue who this random person is. There's somebody else that knows about this thing that's okay with it happening. But the question is, well, how does she know about this? And how did these other people that are friends with Dawn get pulled into this thing? And what happened? Like, it literally tells you nothing. Like, you read the 200 plus pages and you're still like, okay, so what was the plot of the story? What happened? It was just really, really bad. Like, and it sucked because I was really, really happy. The author is, she's a Native woman. She's from Winnipeg, Manitoba, and her father is Red River Métis, who is like born and raised in the Métis community, that Native community. So I was excited because I thought we were going to get culture in the book, and they do talk about the characters' like upbringing with her mom being Native, and I thought we were going to get into that, but it's almost like they keep creating these storylines, but none of them ever come full circle and give you like a plot or anything. Like, literally the book ends, and after this thing happens that they were trying to conjure up, but we don't know why. And we don't know who this guy is. And we don't know where they went. And we don't know how this other person knows about this thing. It was just a bunch of holes. It was just bad. I do not recommend it. But then I read A Flicker in the Dark. This is by Stacey Willingham. And I read one of her other books before, All the Dangerous Things. I loved it. I read that one last year. This one, when Chloe Davis was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing in her small Louisiana town. By the end of the summer, her own father had confessed to the crimes and was put away for life, leaving Chloe and the rest of her family to grapple with the truth and try to move forward while dealing with the aftermath. Now, 20 years later, Chloe is a psychologist in Baton Rouge and getting ready for her wedding. While she finally has a fragile grasp on happiness, the happiness she's worked so hard to achieve. She sometimes feels as out of control of her own life as the troubled teens who are her patients. So when a local teenage girl goes missing, and then another, that terrifying summer comes crashing back. Is she paranoid, seeing parallels from her past that aren't actually there, or for the second time in her life, is Chloe about to unmask a killer? I like this book. I actually like this one better than All the Dangerous Things, in the sense that I feel like this one picked up quicker. Like, I felt like this one moved faster, but I still love All the Dangerous Things. The only reason I say I think I like this one better is because I think it moves faster than All the Dangerous Things. I thought it was good because, honestly, the twist was a twist. Like, I will say, I thought, like, when I was reading this, I was like, okay, it's this person or this person. But, you know, I kind of was like, but I don't want it to be this person, so it's not going to be that person. I feel like she did a really good job. And then another person came in, and I was like, I think she did a really good job of kind of keeping you on the edge of your seat and keeping you on your toes so that you questioned whether or not your like judgment of what was going on was right. I really like this one. I do. I liked it. I liked the ending because at first I thought it was going to go one way and I was like, hold up. You need to pause for a second. And it's an easy read too. It's a little over 300 pages, but her writing is really easy to follow and really easy to get through. So I highly recommend A Flicker in the Dark. Now the next one is Find Him Where You Left Him Dead. This is by Kristen Simmons. Now I did not know that this was a like young adult book because I think where I got this one from, that particular place didn't, it was just kind of like in the thriller section. I like this book, and I have to be honest, I thought I was not going to like it because I was like, okay, I feel like this is like a little kids, little horror story that you would read like when you're in middle school. But then it got even better, and literally by the end of the book, I was like, there's got to be a part 2. Please tell me there's another part. Like, there has to be because of the way that it left off. Like, part of this book made my heart so sad because I'm like, no, I didn't want, like, I thought something was weird, but I didn't want it to be that because now I feel bad. I feel bad for, like, all of them and especially 2 people in here. But there is a part 2 because when I looked this up, this is listed as book 1. So I loved it. Easy read, a little over 200 pages. So just a little blurb. 4 survivors, 1 grave mistake. 4 ex-best friends return to a deadly game in a nightmarish underworld to try and save the boy they left for dead. Yo, it twisted it and it turned. It twisted, it turned, and it was great. So highly recommend this one. Like I said, I believe it's counted, excuse me, as like a young adult book, but it's so good. Next came the second, why did I read this book, of the year, of the month, The Witch in the Well. It's by Camilla Bruce. So I'll just read the little blurb at the top. When 2 former childhood companions reunite after decades apart, their grudges, flawed ambitions, and shared obsessions swirl into an all too real echo of a terrible town legend. Basically, there's this witch in this town, and these 2 girls were friends. They stopped being friends. They come back years later, and one is kind of like popular, and they're an author, and they have, you know, fame. The other one is kind of like seen as the town jerk, kind of in a way, like the people whisper about her, and in her mind, she's like, it's almost like, is she paranoid thinking people are talking about her? But no, people really are talking about her. But the thing is, the way she does things just, it just makes her look bad. And it's like, babe, you got to slow down. But the reason I don't like this book is because, one, I'm so freaking confused as to, is there really a witch that killed some kids years ago? Or are both of these ladies just batshit crazy? I don't know. It was hard to kind of figure out because, so there are the 2 women. There's Alina, and then there is Kathy. Alina dies. So during the, does it say that on the back? Y'all need to read this book anyway. So I kind of gave that away. But it's all about trying to figure out what happened to her and who did this thing to her. And then it pulls in the witch. But, like, part of me is like, when the book ended, so did this thing actually happen? And was there a witch killing people back in the day? And did the witch kill somebody? Like, I was confused. And, like, the way it ended, like, there's this letter from the son to this guy, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be the clue that unlocks everything. It didn't unlock anything. I didn't like it. I wouldn't recommend it. Now, we got another Stacey Willingham. I have already done a reading vlog on this, so if you've already watched that, you've already heard my thoughts on this book. This is Stacey Willingham's new book. Stacey Willingham wrote A Flicker in the Dark, and she also wrote the book All the Dangerous Things that I was talking about, and this is her new one, Only If You're Lucky. This one says, Lucy Sharp is larger than life, magnetic and addictive, bold and dangerous, especially for Margot, who meets Lucy at the end of their freshman year at a liberal arts college in South Carolina. Margaret is shy, careful, never center of attention, but when Lucy singles her out at the end of the year, a year Margaret has spent studying and playing it safe, and asks her to room together, something in Margaret can't say no, something daring or starved or maybe even envious. And so Margaret finds herself living in an off-campus house with three girls, Lucy the ringleader, Sloane the sarcastic one, and Nicole the nice one. The three of them opposites, but also deeply intertwined. It's a year that finds Margaret finally coming out of the shell she's been in since the end of high school, when her best friend Eliza died 3 weeks after graduation. Margaret and Lucy have become the closest of friends, but by the middle of their sophomore year, one of the fraternity boys from the house next door has been brutally murdered, and Lucy is missing without a trace. Okay. This book, and you could watch the reading vlog, I'll make sure I tag it at the end of this video, but this gave me Lifetime, I'm obsessed with my best friend, parts 1 and part 2. I was not a fan of this. It reads easy, just like all of her other books. This one is like over 350, but the words are like super big in this one compared to like her other books. So I don't really think it's like that much longer than the other ones. It's just that they have bigger prints. I wasn't a fan. Like, I feel like as far as the writing, that was fine, but I just felt the story fell flat for me. I love All the Dangerous Things, Flicker in the Dark. So, like I said there, if you haven't read this yet and you were going to get it, it's not going to be the best thing you ever read, in my opinion, by her. Her other books are better. If you've never read anything by her and you were thinking about reading this one, I would say you can give it a try, but don't let it be the thing that kind of gives you an idea of her as an author. Read the other two, because those are more enjoyable. They have a better story. The next one I read was The Night House by Jo Nesbo. This one I think is also a young adult horror type book. Okay, so and this one is actually translated from Norwegian. So he's a Norwegian author, so I thought that was kind of cool. Now, I don't know if kind of the writing has anything to do with, or how the story is told, anything to do with like him being a Norwegian author, because you know sometimes you read stuff by people in different countries and stuff, and that kind of builds into the writing. I didn't necessarily get that too much, or maybe some of like the horror characters kind of pull from Norwegian folklore or something like that. I don't know. But the book was good. This one, in the wake of his parents' tragic deaths in a house fire, 14-year-old Richard Eluved has been sent to live with his aunt and uncle in the remote insular town of Ballantyne. Richard quickly earns a reputation as an outcast, and when a classmate named Tom goes missing, everyone suspects the new angry boy is responsible for his disappearance. No one believes him when he says the telephone booth out by the edge of the woods sucked Tom into the receiver like something out of a horror movie. No one that is except Karen, a beguiling fellow outsider who encourages Richard to pursue clues the police officer refused to investigate. The sleuthing leads him to an abandoned house in the Mirror Forest, where he catches a glimpse of a terrifying face in the window. And then the voices begin to whisper in his ears. She's going to burn. The girl you love is going to burn. There's nothing you can do about it. When another classmate disappears, Richard must find a way to prove its innocence and preserve his sanity as he grapples with the dark magic that is possessing Valentine and pursuing his destruction. Then again, Richard may not be the most reliable narrator of his own story. Here's the thing. That last line should have told me everything I needed to know. So this is almost like one of those stories where it's like a story and a story and a story kind of thing. And let me tell you, I did not like this little boy Richard, because I was like, he is such a jerk. But then you get through the story and you get to like part 2 and you're like, I didn't see that coming. But then you get to part 3 and it's like, oh, I didn't see that coming. And then you get to the end that kind of almost takes you back to the beginning. So I don't know how I feel about this book. Like, the read was good, but I felt like it just took me through so many different like so many different things where I'm just like, I don't know if I really like this book or do I like part of the book. It was okay. I'll say that. It was okay. It wasn't, I don't think it was super horrific, because as it goes to like parts 2 and part 3, you get another perspective of what you thought you were reading, which is why they say he may not be the most reliable. You get a different perspective of what you thought you were reading. So it goes from children's horror to, is this an adult book? Because of what they're conveying in part 2. And then, oh, is this really an adult book? Because what they're conveying in part 3. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The back says Nesbo doesn't spend any time fiddling about, building up, or misdirecting. I feel like he does misdirect. In the night house, the horror begins immediately. It does. And it only keeps calling from there. There are lessons to be learned here. Who to believe and what to believe in. And how a person can change when the impossible turns possible and the unimaginable is laid bare. This horror fan loved it. That's by Josh Mallerman. I don't think, like I said, it gives more horror, but there are different levels to the book. So it was cool. Now, one of my favorite reads, and yes, I am saying that, early on in 2024 in January, Sanctuary by V.V. James. And I am mad because so it's kind of weird. So this is considered a debut novel by her, V.V. James, but she does have like 3 books she wrote before, but under a different name. And those books are kind of not my thing, so I hope she comes out with more. This actually got turned into a TV show. I have not watched it yet because it's so weird. I was reading the book and I was literally looking, you know how Prime has like those like blurbs at the top? And it said Sanctuary, and I was like, wait a minute, Sanctuary? And so I didn't pay attention to it because I didn't want to get sucked into it. And then after I finished reading the book, I was like, I gotta find out more. So they actually did make this into a TV show. I don't know if it's like going to be an ongoing TV show or like a mini-series type thing. The reason I'm hesitant to watch it is because this book pissed me off. Like, when I say people are just so judgmental and they will turn on you and they do not want to take accountability for their actions when things go wrong, that kind of stuff pisses me off. So I'm like, I don't even know if I want to watch the TV show. And the other thing is, I don't like when you have a book and you have like a TV show or a movie and they change things. And I'm like, that's not in the book. I want it like the book. Which, I don't know, because like I said, this book pissed me off. So maybe the TV version would make me like this, like maybe not be so angry. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to watch it yet. But the book, I ate it up. When I tell y'all, I stayed up until 4 a.m. so I could finish this book because I could not put it down. Like, I was like, no, I need to know what happened. So a suspenseful debut, like I said, they considered it a debut, that twists Big Little Liars with practical magic and a dark mystery of 4 women, a wicked secret, and an investigation that shakes their Connecticut town to the core. Sanctuary is the perfect town built on the perfect lie. When young Daniel Whitman is killed at a high school party, the community is ripped apart. The death of Sanctuary's star quarterback seems to be a tragic accident, but everyone knows his ex-girlfriend, Harper Finn, is the daughter of a witch. And she was there when he died. V.V. James weaves a spellbinding tale of a town cracking into pieces and the devastating power of a mother's love. Was Daniel's death an accident, revenge, or something even more sinister? As accusations fly, paranoia grips the town, culminating in a witch hunt the whole nation is watching. Like, and this book made me mad because, one, shout out to the police officer, but girl, there were moments where you should have stepped up, and I felt like she could have stopped some things from happening and escalating the way it did. Because, like, literally, people was out here doing the most horrific things to people that they call their friends, their neighbors, turning on people who are their friends who've only helped them. And this is why you got to watch out who you help. Because people just, listen, when they don't like what happens, when something happens to them, if they can blame you, if they can release accountability, and because you're already an other, because in this book, like, in this world, witches are normal. Like, they live with you. It's just like being another race, another culture, but the way it is that the same way other races and cultures are stereotyped, the witches are stereotyped, and the moment something goes down, those stereotypes come out, and you find out those people ain't your people. Ate it up, loved it, and was still pissed. But shout out to the officer here, a nice black woman, but she should have talked up a little bit more, because I feel like if she did, stuff that happened could have been reined in a little bit better. Now, I will say this one does have sexual assault in it, and that like when I found out that was gonna be a part of the story, it was like, oh, can I get a story where I don't have to read about that? So just disclaimer on that. The last one that I read is by Ruth Ware. This is my first Ruth Ware book. It's called One by One. Luckily, she has several books for me to read because I actually enjoyed this one. The back, it says she's the Agatha Christie of our generation. Now, I didn't read any Agatha Christie, but I know when I was a kid, you would always see like tons of Agatha Christie mysteries in the bookstore, and like still even today probably. But definitely liked it. Getting snowed in at a luxurious rustic ski chalet high in the French Alps doesn't sound like the worst problem in the world, especially when there's a breathtaking vista, a full-service chef and housekeeper, a cozy fire to keep you warm, and others to keep you company. Unless that company happens to be eight co-workers, each with something to gain, something to lose, and something to hide. This book was good. Now, I will say I feel like it did kind of start off a little bit slow, but not in a bad way. It was just kind of, the action didn't start right away. But once people started disappearing, it kept getting better, because people started disappearing and people started dying, and then you try to figure out who is doing what, who you think is doing it. Then you find out somebody where you think their motive or what they might have been a little grimy. You can find out that people even more grimy, and then you have to think about, wow, is the person who's doing this really bad? Because it's like, I understand why they bad, but then you did this and you didn't really have to do this, and now you spazzing out. And I'm reading this book and I'm like, okay, you got some issues that you should have dealt with a long time ago, because you're going too far. I highly recommend One by One. It does tell the story between two of the characters. So Erin, her perspective, who's the housekeeper at the chalet, and then Liz, her perspective, who is coming in with this company that's staying at the chalet. I liked it. And I will say, once it got to like maybe a third of the way in, it started picking up. And that's when my heart was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, are they going to figure this out? Like, is the killer going to figure out? Like, that's when it really started getting like bang, bang, bang. So starts off slow, starts picking up, and then it really starts to hit. So I highly recommend this. I actually have bought two books by her, this one and then another one that I'm reading right after this one. And I'm already loving that one. So I think Ruth Ware is going to be an author that I keep going back to and grabbing her books. And I'm glad she has more than one. And more than two. So highly, highly recommend this one. And I'll be talking about the other one next month, because I'm not done with it yet. But these are the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books that I finished in the month of January. Okay, let's get it. Starting the year off right. We had a few flops. We did. But we had more good books than flops. So we love that. If you've read any of these, let me know what your thoughts are. If you decide to read some of these based off of what I said, let me know how you feel when you read them. My name is Sarah. Thanks for joining me. If you're new, thank you so much. Just stick around. If you're returning, I appreciate you so much for coming back all the time. And I will see you guys in the next one.